Howdy there, this is Mr. Votiga, and I am back here with another episode where I would like to try and show you guys a thing or two about more complex base techniques. Basically, I think that, once you kind of get the setup and you get all the basics in your base, you're going to want to personalize it a little bit. I mean, like, if you look around at this room, it's all kind of flat, and there's really nothing that sets each room apart besides the objects that are in it. So, I have started with a few rooms here, and I want to show you kind of some of the basics of what to do, and then I'm going to go into a couple of ideas for things that you can do with those rooms that you build. You can really do this with any base size. As long as you can fit a room in there, you can kind of shape the persona or the look or the atmosphere of it. All right, so let's go into this room, which is the room that I want us to look at. Alright, so as you can see, this is just a small 3x3 room. There's nothing going on in here. No objects. And in this video, I don't want to go over objects and placement of that. That might be for a later video, but for the most part, there's so many objects, you really just kind of got to dig into it and find the things that suit the theme or the look that you're going for. So anyways, just going over some of the basics, one of the best things that you can do in a room to radically change its appearance and its look is to change the heights of the ceiling and the floor, and to put in walls to kind of reshape and reform the room. And how you do that is you have to be under the Create Room feature here, and then you go to Object, and then when you select any one of these panels in your room, this is a 3x3 room, so there will be 9 panels. You can edit some of these things here and create sort of a different look. So just to show you kind of, for example, if you were to add more floor, you'd get a little raised platform, add more ceiling, and the ceiling comes down, the wall just to block it off to create kind of 2 separate sides of your room. And you can also go all the way to the bottom as well, which this is the lowest possible floor setting. You can, and then that's the highest possible height setting. And I will talk a little bit about how to deal with those, although for the sake of this small room, I think I'm going to keep it fairly simple. So essentially there's 2 different ceiling settings on this, with the highest ceiling being no ceiling setting. So you have kind of like the highest ceiling, a medium or mid ceiling, then the low ceiling. And for this one, we are going to go with a low ceiling. I'm thinking maybe this part of the base will turn into, I don't know, like some sort of treasure room or some sort of icon that must be reached and is in kind of a special place. So to do that, let's kind of center the room around this area here, and we'll bring it up. We have the lowest floor, and then there's kind of a mid floor, which is what the normal floor is usually at, the mid floor, and then the high floor. And this kind of creates this separate platform where something important might be. And now to kind of frame this, why don't we just put walls on both sides of these? And one of the cool things about this feature is, well, as long as there's no objects, you can just put a wall just by clicking right in the middle there of this little window. And there you go. As you can see, this kind of creates a, like the room is a little smaller, a little tighter, and then this becomes an alcove that our special item will be hidden at. Now, I think to really accentuate kind of how special this area will be, we'll go ahead and pull away some of the floor here, just so that it further raises this off the floor. And as you can see, this already in a room that was just kind of a blank 3-3 room, it already is creating a sense of depth and character to this room. Just by walking in this room, you can already tell that if some object is placed here, it's of some significance or importance. Maybe it's a practical use. Maybe in your base you put, your teleporter right there, or you put your mission computer there, or maybe it's just for role-playing or thematic sense, and you just have some object there that looks cool. So another little trick that you can do while doing this is, of course, you can do the create room and then object, and that will bring up your room selection manipulation here, which is very easy to use. And as long as you're clicking on left clicking on each of these things, it will allow you to visually see what's going on there, as well as edit or manipulate. But if you also get proficient at it, you can also click on a space with right click on a space, and then while holding down the mouse, how does this work? Oh yeah, you have to click and left click and hold. Sorry, messed that up. I mess up left and right a little sometimes. Anyways, you left click and hold, and then it allows you to actually pull this up, and I can turn this into a wall just by left clicking and holding. And by left clicking and holding again, I can by left clicking and holding again, I can try and bring it down. I guess not. I guess you have to remove the wall part first. But then once you remove the wall part, you can actually bring it down all the way if you want. Well, I guess only as low as the other things around it. So this is something that I only just learned recently, so I guess I'm stumbling with it a little bit. But for our purposes, I think the easiest way to mess with that, once you get comfortable with the left clicking and dragging, you can do this quickly. But I think probably the easiest way to do it is to go to the create room and object, and then select the panel that you want to edit, and edit it visually this way. Alright, well, another aspect of really bringing some character and light to this room is picking the style option, which is right beneath create room. And this is going to bring up, your various trims and wallpapers and stuff like that. And this can be very important into defining the character of a room. Unfortunately, there's not a huge amount of options here, but there are some really good ones. And you can also edit the primary and secondary colors of these options, and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. Now you can just use the little arrow keys here to cycle through these sub-tabs or these tabs to select the various things individually. But again, I think that they've made it pretty easy here, where you can just click on a tile and it'll go directly to low floors, mid floors, high floors, and you can even click on these edges here for trim, wallpaper, and the such. So let's really deck this out. Like I said, I kind of wanted to make this like a treasure room almost, or something. So let's see. Our low floors, we're gonna want something that kind of makes it look worse or below what's above. So dingy, I think, is a good one. It looks kind of like dirt. Let's see, for mid, well, we're gonna want something that's kind of approaching the platform here in an interesting way. Some of the ancients are nice. They have nice little stonework. I think if you want something that looks like it's kind of older, so we'll go with that one. And then for the high one, this is where whatever object we would want to put would rest. And actually, I think that we'll switch it up with arcane. Arcane implies more magical nature. So, if we put like these cobblestones or this grid, that will kind of create a transition from the dirty ground to this ancient platform up to the arcane nested grid. And really, with floors, it can be important to do themes like that, or at least to have some sort of narrative between them. You can easily have a dingy, dirty floor, and then have, a high-tech risen floor above it, built on top of it. But, it might look kind of out of place if then you go from high-tech to arcane again. So, it's just important to kind of try and keep some of those kind of things in mind when doing the floors. And of course, everything is reversible, and you can zoom out, take a look at it, sleep on it, whatever you need to help you improve. So really, this high-tech floor trim, there's some interesting trims, but I do like going with no trim oftentimes, because I think that it gives it a much more open kind of wall feel. Not a whole lot of places that I've been to have these giant 4-foot tall trim pieces all around, but they can add a lot of character to your room. So I would suggest messing with that on your own. Now the next thing after you're done looking at the floors is you want to change the walls, because right now we have these kind of high-tech factory walls and it just doesn't jive with our current look. So let's, the walls, there's all sorts of walls. Because there's going to be wall pieces for not only the walls here that you see, but also the walls on these little raised pieces. So again, I think that kind of clicking on them until you get more familiar with what these wall types are called is going to be easiest for you. For example, just clicking on this tells me that this is just short floor walls, but this is floor walls, and without experience in that topic, you wouldn't really know. So just kind of clicking on it is going to help you out there. And so let's keep with sort of this theme that we're going with here, and that looks good. That matches up well with those ancient stones there. And this one up here, it's arcane, so arcane stones are also going to look good. But we can't forget about our other walls here. So let's click on these. This is the mid walls. This will kind of go up to about this level on your walls. And the mid walls, again, we're going to want something kind of, connecting to this floor here. And I think dingy looks pretty good. Maybe some vents at the bottom. That way air can kind of flow out of here as it settles, air and dust. And then we're going to go up here to the high walls. And of course, as you can imagine, there's very high walls when you open up the sky there. Let's see. So let's make this, thinking one of the ancients. That's a cool design, but I think that is just going to look a little better. And while we're up here, we might as well change the ceiling trim. Which we're probably going to want to keep ancient look there, and that's just going to look well with this design here, and kind of implies that there's something special about this room. So let's change some of our ceilings now. Look at that. That does not match. So let's go up over here and we'll select that ceiling. That is the low ceiling. And then that is going to be our mid ceiling. And then of course there's the high ceiling, which I'll show you. But let's keep this up with the theme, and we'll go probably with something ancient. Sometimes with the highlight it can be hard to see how it will exactly fit, but I think that's a good look. Again, this is going to make this whole area right here, wherever the special thing is, stand out and look a little better. So that means we kind of want to downplay the mid ceiling here. So maybe we'll just go dingy again, just some simple dingy bricks. And again, there's some great things that you can do with all of these things that you select. For example, the ceiling trim looks a little green to me. So I can go over here to the primary and secondary colors and start changing these up, lightening up the trim a little bit, trying to match it to the wall there. And of course, as you can see, there are lots of colors as well. So this secondary color tends to be much like when you're designing costumes, the secondary detail color on these things. So let's say I want these to be red. Boom, and then it makes it look reddish and kind of strange. But we can kind of fade it out a little bit by going lighter, or you can go darker too, so that it just looks muddy and red, and everywhere in between. We'll just kind of put it kind of a light pink, almost so that it kind of glows a little. All right, and then maybe the last thing I want to show in this room here will be the high ceiling, because I do think that it's important to see what you can do with the high ceiling. So the high ceiling has a special tile that none of the other ceilings do, called open sky. And this is pretty awesome because you can, as you can see, put a little skylight. And there are ways when you're in the beginning of your room and using the options here, you can change the types of skies that there are. If you wanted, you can change it to, well, I guess maybe some of these skies don't look too different, but there's a dense fog, for example. Make it Atlas Park, Storm Palace, whatever that means. Some interesting things. The one dangerous thing I would say about this is this can be a little fourth wall breaking, and I will go into some future videos that show how to manipulate or abuse these open skies so that you can create more floors to your base, and kind of different paths that you take around. But for the time being, it is not the greatest, because if you come over here and just drop down, you're gonna keep falling. Bye, base. And without a flight travel power or teleport travel power, you're never going to make it back up to the base, and you're going to have to use the base teleporter passcode functionality to get back in. And also, it just looks weird with the roofs cut off like this. I don't really think you're meant to be up there, but there are ways to sit and make it interesting. So, let's do that. Haha. Alright, so we have picked the style, we have our little room set up. Already this room has quite a bit of character. It looks really interesting. You could tell some interesting stories with the objects that you place in here. But there's something else that we can do to this room that will make this room very interesting, and help to set the mood. And that is going to be adjusting the lighting. Now the lighting I find very interesting because you can kind of accentuate lighting objects that you've placed, like torches or lamps, You can make areas really dark and cluttered, or you can add kind of glows that you want to emphasize, kind of setting again the mood. So to get to the lighting, what you're going to want to do is go back to the Create Room button, and then go to the Room tab here, and then there's a lighting tab there. And much like the walls and floors and ceilings that we were messing with, there is a high, middle, and low feature for all these. So let's kind of make the floor level of this kind of dark and grim. See that's like almost black. It's so dark. So we'll lighten that up a little bit. The ceiling, I feel like very similar. There's not going to be a whole lot of light there in the ceiling area. But maybe in this mid area, we will kind of put a mysterious bluish glow, maybe. And if you kind of mess with this a little bit, you can make it look like a neon kind of light glow. You can make it like an intense bulb glow. You can make it just sort of like a nighttime kind of flashy glow, and this will kind of inform people when they come in, help direct their attention towards objects, and kind of help you give a sense of what you're trying to do in this room. And like with every other thing that I've talked about today, in this video, there are going to be features on this little tab that pops up that apply these things to the entire base or to the entire room. And these can be good as a base template, I think. If you're picking your style, colors, maybe you want to keep a certain color theme, you can apply those colors to the room itself. I think applying it to the base is a little dangerous, just because you're going to end up with a whole base that kind of just has the same color all throughout. And by giving kind of different varied lightings and different colors to the different rooms, you're going to make the different rooms really stand out and seem a lot more interesting and alive. I do think applying the colors to the room can be useful, and certainly once you've applied them, you can always tweak them individually, and you can always reset the room colors. However, when you apply the colors to the base, you'll have to go through each room individually and adjust those. The same can be said of the lighting. You can apply the lighting to the base, but you can never reset it. So if you ever don't like a certain lighting, like, this blue, I don't know, it's just not what I was going for, there are going to be these color grade bars here that will that can kind of allow you to return it to the white light that it was before, and then you can just adjust the color grade so that it looks more in line with the rest of your lighting. So let's see here. Now that I've shown you kind of how to do this real quickly, this is just a small room, and it's already kind of created this interesting little avenue. I want to show you some other rooms that I've prepared before the recording of this video, to kind of show you kind of the different things that you can do with the rooms in the bases, and maybe hopefully give you guys some ideas. So directly outside of here, I've created kind of like this little maze area, this sewery maze area, and as you can see, the natural lighting of that torch is illuminating this hallway. I've turned the lighting almost all the way down, if not all the way down, and kind of created this kind of gloomy, kind of mazy kind of area. And this room started off as a square. This actually, if you look at the room, is a 5x6 rectangle, I guess. But by using the various room editing functions, I was able to kind of create these long hallways that feel claustrophobic and can block people off. And I've used this in bases before too, where you can kind of create things that feel like secret passages because they're hidden behind objects or effects. And you can, create smaller separate little rooms within this larger room. So it's all interesting that way. And then this one I decided to make into some sort of a Arachnos throne room, if you will. Here's kind of like the entry area. You go through this body scanner thing, and then here you are in the throne room, which I adjusted the lighting and the colors on the walls to give it this kind of this look and this feel. And the interesting thing is this is all one room. This is all just a 3x7, large 3x7 room that I've just added in 3 walls and then mucked around with the floor and ceiling levels to create this, this kind of grandiose room that if I spend a lot more time, I could certainly add more details and then maybe even some NPCs to flush this room out some more. But so anyways, I hope that was informative to you. If you didn't already know, there are a lot of really great things that you can do with some of these techniques that I've shown you today. You can make all sorts of different rooms that aren't just your standard kind of boxy rooms that you see normally when you create the rooms, and by adjusting the lighting and the wallpapering and everything else, you can bring certain moods and atmospheres to your room. Oh boy. Anyways, that was a little bit unplanned there, so sorry. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Again, I hope that this was informative for you. I'm going to put timestamps down in the stuff below, as well as if you want to see when I release new videos, please subscribe and like the video. You can follow me on Twitter at mvotiga. I will try and update that regularly whenever I release a new video, and you can also see me stream some City Heroes and other games on Twitch at Mr. Votiga. So hopefully I will be seeing you soon. Bye.